Well, it's the point in the show where we're joined by Market Journal's Bill Dodd to see what he's watching this week. And today he's taking a closer look at how extension educators are helping producers combat and manage pest problems in the field. Bill, take it away.
Thanks, Troy. While Nebraska producers are nearing the finish line on planting, some may already be thinking about pest prevention. And two pests on the minds of extension educators this year are the western bean cutworm and the European corn borer. Now, of the two, the western bean cutworm is the most likely culprit to be spotted by producers this year. And that's why Nebraska Extension, in coordination with the UNL Entomology Department, have rolled out Western Bean Cutworm Central. This website is a virtual cornucopia of information for producers who are looking for the best information on the pest and the best ways to manage it. While the western bean cutworm has been a historical pest in Nebraska, sightings of the pest have generally been in the western part of the state. However, in recent years, there have been more and more sightings in central and eastern parts of the state as well. So, what kind of information can you find on this site? You might be better off asking, what information can't you find on this site?
So on our website, we have a lot of different resources. We have information on the basic biology and behavior of the pest. We have a full listing of extension resources that are available, including links to all of those resources. We also have links to information that's available from outside of the state of Nebraska, from other trusted resources. We really wanted to bring together all of the different materials that are available about western bean cutworm into one central location, sort of a one-stop shop for farmers, for crop consultants, also for other researchers, to be able to find all of the information they need about the pest, how to identify it, what are the best management practices, what's the current research, and what are recommendations that not just Nebraska, but other extension providers across the country are recommending.
With the adoption of Bt crops in recent years, Julie says some producers and crop analysts may have been lulled into a false sense of security, thinking that the pest has been controlled by these management solutions. However, now that we're seeing resistance to the Cry1F trait, we're getting back to a situation where producers need to be on the lookout for the pest and proactively managing it. Julie recommends checking your fields for moth activity, which usually peaks around mid-June to early July. You can cross-reference that with the moth flight data that's found on the website. Furthermore, if you have non-Bt fields, those will be critical areas to scout. And speaking of proactive pest management, Nebraska Extension educator Tom Hunt is staying vigilant in the fight against keeping the European corn borer out of the U.S. Corn Belt for good. Researchers have seen a recent resurgence of this insect in Nova Scotia, and while there have been no reports of field-evolved resistance to transgenics in the U.S. as of yet, he believes this technology should hold out for a number of years with proper proactive resistance management practices. However, researchers are keeping a close eye on the situation developing with the species in Nova Scotia. Since the region is a low-heat unit area, producers there are a lot more reliant on shorter-season corn hybrids, and there aren't as many selections in terms of transgenic short-season hybrids for them to choose from. Tom explains minimal hybrid selection coupled with the possibility of reduced compliance to resistance management may have led to the resurgence, and goes on to detail how corn growers can avoid similar problems here in the States.
That is planting or making sure there's refuge corn, non-Bt corn planted. That non-Bt corn produces Bt susceptible corn borers that can mate with any resistant one that might pop up, so it kind of floods out the resistance, it dilutes it. And so we think maybe those two things might have led to the resistance that we're seeing. Be vigilant. Always check your fields, even though it's Bt and it keeps those corn borers down. Take a look at that field, make sure there's no unexpected damage. If you see some caterpillars in the ear or on the plant, you know it's usually something different, but check them out. It's always good to not use single trait hybrids for a pest. Industry and everyone is pretty much going away from that. We're now pyramiding toxins in plants. That means there's two different toxins in a single plant that affect one insect. So if one doesn't kill it, the other will. You know, so it's a much less frequent resistance development in the situation where you have two different modes of action like that working. But now we're doing okay, but we just need to be vigilant and keep practicing resistance management. I think will be good for the near future anyway, and soon will be pyramids in just about, you know, any hybrid in a few years. And so then it'll make it even a higher level of security. But you always have to, you know, follow the label and be vigilant.
At the moment, the corn borer situation seems to be under control here in the States. But Tom did mention many producers and researchers in the eastern parts of the country closest to the threat have been following things very carefully. and the best course of action for producers here in the Corn Belt is simply to follow suit. Producers should keep an eye out for these pests for the remainder of the growing season, and that's what I've got my eye on this week. Troy, for now I'll send it back to you.